Today on the Coach Wild Podcast, we have a very special guest joining the show today, head coach at a Division II softball program in West Virginia, West Liberty University. This coach joins us after this is only her second true year of going into her, her second true year of coaching at this institution, but she's made an immediate impact. Being in her first 2 years, she's accumulated 51 total wins, including 29 of them in MEC Mountain East Conference play. She had a few players do some really, really good things. She's produced all Atlantic region players, all MEC players, and a lot of just high-level quality talent coming out of that out of this program here. She spent time at multiple different different schools prior to this, including at a Division I school, as well as spending time as a GA. So she's got some time throughout her career, developing as a coach. So super excited to have this coach join the show today. But with that being said, let's welcome Coach Sara Pelegreen to the Coach Wild Podcast.
With the world of coaching evolving and the carousel always changing, we're going to sit down with some coaches and we're going to figure out what they coach, how they coach, and most importantly, why they got into this profession. My name is Kason Wilkinson, and I am your host of the Coaches Why Podcast.
That's a great question.
That was my Coaches Why.
Welcome back to another Coach Wild Podcast, guys. We have a very special guest joining the show today, all the way from West Virginia. West Liberty University. Yep, that's in West Virginia. Coach Sara Pelegreen, the head softball coach there. Coach, thanks for joining the show today. How are you?
Yeah, thanks. I'm doing great. It's a little chilly. It's like 10 degrees outside right now, so I'm like bundled up in my office. But other than that, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Of course, yeah. The weather, being softball outdoor sport, I'm sure the first few months are not ideal for you.
No, thank goodness we have a really cool indoor facility. So it's just baseball and softball specific. So we are extremely blessed to have that, especially right now leading up to season.
Oh, for sure, yeah. The ability to go inside is probably outstanding. So that's fair. I like that. And so with that facility, do you think that, like, with having that facility, because not everybody has an indoor facility, I know it's probably getting more to that level where you start seeing more indoor facilities. Maybe they've always had it, but with having a nice indoor facility, is that a pretty big, I wouldn't say selling point, but maybe it is, but is that a pretty big, I know it's a big benefit, obviously, like you said, being cold outside to go inside, but when it comes to getting kids to maybe show interest in your school, things like that, is that a pretty big, get, if you would?
For sure. I would say that is a pretty big deal for us. So we're located, yes, in West Virginia, but in northern West Virginia. So we're like located right between Ohio and Pennsylvania. So it is cold here. And like it just snowed a few inches the other day. I think we got like 14 inches a couple weeks ago. So like we're getting the snow here. And so for us, and especially because it's very softball and baseball specific facility, it is a big draw for our recruits that we have. Our girls love it because we also have the ability to go in there on our off time if like the girls want to go in and get their own work. So it's a huge draw. It's located right beside our softball field, so even better for us because sometimes we use it for our pre-game warm up when it's just a little bit chilly out and we don't want to be outside. So maybe that's our home field advantage, if you will. But yeah, it's a big draw. And I've been to a couple other schools and we didn't have as nice of a facility as this one. So I do love it for sure.
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. So tell me, you are currently in West Virginia, as you're mentioning, but tell me a little bit about you. Like, where'd you grow up? And then how'd you get involved in sports, but, maybe more particular softball, since that's what we're coaching?
Okay, so I am actually from about 45 minutes from here. All three of the schools that I've worked for have been within an hour distance from where I grew up. So I'm a big family person. I'm gonna struggle if I ever have to, move away from them. So for me, I've been very, very fortunate in the job opportunities that I've been given. That I've been able to stay close to home. So I'm from Eastern Ohio. I went to school at West Virginia State University, which is in West Virginia as well, and it is in our conference. We compete in the Mountain East Conference here. So I've that was 3 hours from home. And then out of college, I got the opportunity to be a graduate assistant at Wheeling Jesuit University, which is West Liberty's rival school. And so that's where I got my first opportunity to coach. And I only took the job because I didn't want to be a real person and have a real job. So I was like, yeah, let's like coach softball a little bit and get a master's degree and not, go into the real world quite yet. And then I ended up falling in love with it. And now this is my real world. And sometimes it doesn't feel real. And that's what I love about it. So that's kind of like the nutshell of how I got into coaching.
Yeah. Sometimes it's interesting when you think about it. You're almost like a full-time jock. It's kind of cool thinking about that, like you get to just be around sports all the time. And so, no, that's awesome. So you were a GA first, and then that's how you kind of decided that that's what you ended up wanting to do. And then you said that you've worked at a few different schools, right? Now you said Williams Jesuit, is that right?
Wheeling Jesuit. So,
Wheeling Jesuit. Okay.
So that's where I got started. I was the GA there for 2 years, and then the head coach left, and I just randomly was like, yeah, maybe they'll hire me as the head coach, and they did. And so I was 25 years old, super young head coach, had no idea what the heck I was doing. And it's kind of cool to look back on that, and I'm not sure that I would be the coach I am today without kind of being thrown to the fire in that experience. So I was at Wheeling for 5 total years, and then I got an opportunity to be assistant coach up at Robert Morris University, which is outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's a small D1. They compete in the Horizon League. And so I was up there for 3 years as an assistant coach. And then the opportunity came up down here to take this job. And I definitely wanted to be a head coach again. I love D2. D2 is kind of where my heart is a little bit. I liked the D1 and the competitiveness behind it, but I also have, he's 4 now, but at the time I had just had a newborn baby. And so that was really challenging to juggle for me. So I feel like with the D2 life, while it's still busy, it's a little bit more of a family balance than it was up there doing the D1 thing.
Yeah, coaching in general takes a lot from you, so I can understand why family is such an important thing for you to just kind of stay close to them. You say that with your little one, he's still little. Or
he's 4.
Okay. Yeah. So you having a little one and being a coach, takes a lot out of you. And so how long have you been at West Liberty for?
I actually just celebrated my 2 years. I was hired at the mid-year 2 years ago. So yeah, here I am, and it's been great. Like I love it here, and I hope to build something really special here for sure.
Yeah, no, I for one, hopefully that happens as well.
Thank you.
That'd be awesome. But and congratulations on your 2 years and your experience to get to where you're at now. But kind of stepping back just a little bit as well, you played at West Virginia State. So just kind of a quick rundown there. When did you realize, maybe in high school, that you could compete at that next level? What was the moment? Was there something you did? Was there a coach who reached out to you? Like, when did you realize, like, oh, maybe I can do this?
You know what? I don't really remember. Like, it's been a long time now. However, what I do remember is when I was getting recruited, or like the time that I was getting recruited, all of my teammates were, committing, and I wasn't getting the looks that they were getting. And I was like, what the heck? Like, I'm pretty good too. And so I just kind of like kept going. And back then it wasn't email heavy. We made discs with our video, and we just gave them out at softball tournaments, and we hoped to God that the coaches would go home and watch them. And so then West Virginia State's coach, Bob Allen, at the time, he must have saw something really special, and he got a hold of me. And so I was only heavily getting recruited to, it's funny looking back, to West Virginia State and Wheeling Jesuit, where I ended up starting my coaching career. So like, so I ended up going to West Virginia State, but yeah, like I wasn't the person that everyone was seeking after as a player. Like I was the person that was watching all of my teammates come in, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe their coach will like me too. And then I would send my video to them, and then I would send my video, to the other coach. And so that's kind of what my path was. And then just the right fit happened my senior year. It was the fall of my senior year. But as far as like knowing that I wanted to play softball, I have kind of always did. I remember kind of backing off of basketball. I was also a basketball player. I remember backing off of that a little bit and telling my coach, like, hey, I'm going to play softball in college. Like, I still love basketball. I still want to play. And I could have probably played basketball in college, but like my love was softball. And that's like where I wanted to go with that. And so basically all the decisions that I made at that point just kind of revolved around like, yeah, I'm going to make sure that I do what I got to do for my basketball squad, but also too, like knowing the big picture, I want to go play softball.
Yeah. That's important piece whenever you realize that love is what you want to continue to do. And I think that it's funny that you mentioned the whole disc thing, because I was also in that time frame of, at the time I really wanted to go play football in college. And so, I took all the Huddle film. Huddle was brand new at the time.
Right.
I literally I spent my junior summer I probably burned 200 discs of my 8-minute Huddle film and and I had my own little like template of just words. It was just, hey coach, so I could just mass send it. And I probably sent it to 200 schools or so over that summer, the old school way of paying for the stamp and sending it out. And so we didn't have the luxury of the kids, what they have nowadays, which I don't know when you graduated high school and what time frame that was, but it sounds like it's probably very similar time frame of all that. So it was funny to me because that was one hell of a way to spend a summer. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. So I'm 34. So I graduated high school in 2009 and then college in 2013. So but like, it's funny when I look at the, recruiting process of today and everyone's freaking out if they aren't committed their junior year. And I just think back of how I had no idea going into my senior year what the heck I was going to do. And so like, it's kind of crazy how we've made this drastic change, and it's kind of a long period of time, but it's still a short period of time of, 12 years isn't that long. So yeah.
No,
it's really not. And I graduated high school in 13, so I'm a few years younger, but still, it is funny though, and with all the recruiting, what do you call it? Like platforms that people can sign up for, and in softball and baseball, particularly those sports. I know there's other sports that have it, like football has camps and stuff like that, but the showcases is what I'm getting to. You may have had it. I was a baseball kid growing up, but the whole idea of these showcases nowadays are such really they're valued at a high rate for the high school kids, right? To try to get in front of as many coaches as they can at one time. And so, we didn't really have that at the same level that it is now. You might have had camps and stuff. Like I remember I had camps, but not what it is now. And so, now that you're coaching, do you utilize showcases or things like that? I know travel ball and stuff like that's a whole nother conversation that I know is going to take a while to talk about, so we'll probably not ask that question today.
Okay.
But because I know it's also a hot question. It's every baseball coach and softball coach I talk to, I try to ask that question. But in a different form, are you showing up to showcases and things like that, or do you have a different process, I guess, when it comes to finding your athletes and how you recruit now?
I think it's just a little bit of everything, right? I do heavy recruiting in the summer. I'll go out to those tournaments and, but before I go there, I have a list of girls that I know that I want to watch while I'm out there. And then it kind of broadens out like, oh, I went to watch her, but now I see her playing. She's really, really good. So let's follow up with her now. I will go to the showcases, but like a lot of colleges go to the showcases too. So it's kind of hard to not necessarily stand out, or maybe because it's important not only that we are seeing those players, but also that they're seeing us watch them. So so I like being sometimes the only coach or one of 5 coaches standing behind a backstop watching a game. So, but also too, a big deal now are these are like, come to our camps, right? Like we hold camps. We really want the girls that we're interested in to come see what we've got going on here, because like, and I know like what we're building is really special, and I can talk about it all day long, but until you feel it and get on campus, and you're not going to understand it truly. So I can talk and be a talking head about my culture all day long, but until you feel it, you're not really going to understand where I'm coming from. So I think I push that more than I push anything else now.
Yeah, hosting camps and hosting people just to get them to see what you got, I think is important. You know, like I have a lot of girls because I coach women's wrestling at the college level.
Nice.
So, yeah, so it's been, you know, and I'm recruiting. You know, the buy-in on the phone. You know, they love what they hear and all that stuff. And I've had girls commit without seeing the school and stuff, like, which is cool. But at the same time, there's also, you know, getting them here and get them to see a practice or to meet the athletes or meet whoever on campus, right? It's different, and it's usually like that. If they're interested, anyways, right? And I know not everybody's going to commit. Just not how you can't win them all, but
Right.
getting them there and getting to feel it and get to see it really can sometimes get them over that hump to say yes to you, especially once they see it. And even if not, it's a great networking tool. Like even if they choose somewhere else, they can tell somebody else like, hey, they had a really good facility or program or whatever the case is. So having them show up and see that, I think, is huge. So I can appreciate you hosting camps and not 100% diving into just showcase only type of thing. And I'm sure that's a fundraising thing too. I'm sure you make a little bit of money. Sometimes I don't. Every school's different. Some don't care to make money off that. Some do. But I think that however you manage it, I'm sure you get those athletes there in front of you. So I can appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
So you've spent some time coaching at the D1 level and GA and you know, just in general, you spend your time around a decent amount of coaches. What's something, so maybe who was an influential coach to you? And then also, what's one thing that you've taken from them and implemented into your program? So whether that's on the schematic, drills, training type of thing, or more on the social networking side of things, like however you want to answer that, but one of those two.
I will always say my first mentor was, her name is Kimberly Stiles. She coaches at Maine now, softball. And so, she coached at Charleston, who is in our conference. And she was the first one that kind of took me under her wing and was like, hey, here's how you recruit. And you show up for the 8 a.m. games and you stay until you absolutely need to leave. And because like you never want anybody to beat you recruiting. Like recruiting is where it all starts. And so and that has been so true since I'm like, okay, yes, ma'am, don't let anybody ever beat me recruiting. Got it. And so that's why I kill myself in the summer going to all these tournaments. Like I will not let anybody else be seen more than I am. And so that is something that I really think about all the time. And I think she taught me that in 2016, so 10 years ago. So like that's really cool for me. Another person that comes to my mind is Missy Frost. She coaches at UIndy, and she's phenomenal. They have such a rock star program there. And what I really admire about her is I got to meet her when I first started coaching as well. And so and she has ties back to Wheeling, where I used to coach. And so what I really admire about her is she has a very competitive softball program, but they do things right. They aren't, they're nice to compete against. They're nice human beings when they show up to the field. Now they're intimidating, and that's what we want, right? We want to be at that intimidation factor, but also too, they're good to compete against, and they're not butt heads, right? And that's what I always say, I really want to be a good program of good humans. And that's it. I want to be respected. I want to do well, and for another team in our conference to be I'm really happy to see Sara having this success, or Sarah's team having this success, because I want them to have an enjoyable time competing against us, and not being those butt heads that are kind of oh, I hate going to that university to play. And so so I think when I think about what type of program I want to lead, it's very similar to Missy Frost and her UIndy team. And then I'll always I have so many people I could talk about, but the last person I'll talk about is Sheila Goulis. She was at Ashland University for a very long time, and then she retired. But I was never, I really wanted her to recruit me out of high school, and she never did. She never wanted to take a chance on me, which is fine. And we joke around about it now. But my first head coach that I coached under went to Ashland and had that connection. And Sheila is just the type of coach that just takes everybody like around her and makes them better. And like even to this day, we barely like we'll catch up here and there throughout the year, but she'll text me on my birthday, happy birthday, or like I hope you have a Merry Christmas. And it's just one of those people like she never forgets to follow up with you. And I'm like, man, I need to be that person. How can I remember to be that person? I'm so scatterbrained. And so so it's just like little things like that. Different with every coach, but I just admire them for just being like the people they are and like really just what's cool about softball and what I learn every time I get to go to the convention is that softball is such a sport of givers. Like no one's really hiding anything. It's just like, let me share with you what worked for me. And it's kind of cool because no one's trying to hide anything. Everyone's just trying to level each other up. And that's what I appreciate about our softball community.
That's always great to hear. I think and I could be wrong, but I feel like there's some sports out there that you don't really see that. There's
Correct.
sports out there that like to hide things, and they just don't want to give up too much of what they're doing, right? Because once they find what works for them, they just don't want to give it away. And to each their own, if that's how you feel, and you've if you listen to some of these podcasts, back. There's some coaches who, when we talk schematics and stuff, usually on the second episode, but we sometimes, dive into those things. Some coaches are more willing to talk than others, and, it's fine, but it's one of those things where it's interesting because you're right. It is, some sports are more cutthroat than others in terms of those type of conversations, so you're willing to do that is huge. And the people in your community, that makes the sport better. In my opinion, because then you get more competition. Obviously you want to win, but like at one point you had to beat Oklahoma at the D1 level to be the best, right? And Bama at one point, right? And back when you had like Jenny Finch and you had Kat Osterman and all those girls, which by the way I was a huge softball fan. Like I used to watch. I still watch World Series all the time every year, but back in those days, I remember me and my cousin, we would sit in the hotel with the beach volleyball. And I would underhand pitch if we're on vacation during it, and he would hit, and we would act like we were fast pitchers. I don't know why we did that, but we just enjoyed watching softball. Whatever. But anyway, so it's always great when you have good competition, and it's a healthy competition too at that. So, so what are some challenges that you faced? I know you spent time as a GA and as an assistant, right, and a head coach prior to. So you can answer it however you'd like, but maybe in the terms of head coaching, because you're kind of over everything, what are some challenges that you've faced early on that you feel like you've had to overcome, and now if you feel now you don't feel like you have to, it won't be so much of a challenge if it were to come back to you or whatever the case is.
Right. I think the biggest thing that like the two biggest things I had to learn is that like you're not going to know everything. And I, at first, was like, I need to impress everybody. I need to know as much as possible. I need to have an answer for everything. And I've just learned, like, well, that's not very real. That's absolutely not realistic either. Right. And so I just basically realized, like, okay, well, like if you don't know something, just say it. Right. If you mess up, you own your mistakes. And it's just that's how it goes, and that's life in general. And so like I just had to learn that, and I didn't know that because I became a head coach at such a young age, and I didn't really have anyone like kind of teaching me that. I just had to learn for myself. And then and the second thing is like you can't coach everyone the same. Like everyone is so different, and this is like one of the most challenging things even to this day. Like I'm still not great at it because some girls can take getting yelled at over and over and over and be absolutely fine. That actually motivates them. Other girls are going to crawl up into a little ball and cry. And it's just one of those things where like, yes, you can be harder on some people, not harder, but learning that. And that takes time. And like, we're handing out our uniforms this week. So we are kind of like doing little interval, like 15-minute intervals, like checking in with them, seeing how everything is, and just kind of like building that relationship, even in just a little bit while they come grab their uniforms, just so like maybe they tell us something that we didn't know. And we just have a little bit more insight to their life and how we can maybe better coach them in just a little bit of a way. And so those are the two biggest things that I've learned coaching. And as far as like the actual like running of a program type thing, like there's always like at this level, like we're a small Division II school, like we oversee our budget, we oversee our fundraising, like we oversee our academics. So like we are one hat for everything. And it's just like, it's challenging. And you just learn kind of how to navigate that as you go. But that's just another thing that it takes reps to kind of get used to.
Right.
That's a very good point. Being smaller schools, if you're at Texas or University of Florida, it might be different, but being at the level that you're at, and
Right.
Which definitely has some pros and cons to it, right? It's cool that you
For
are
sure.
in charge of it, so you know ins and outs of everything, but it's just more work on your plate. So it's kind of a con to it, of course. But so then what's an overrated and or underrated drill / or technique when it comes to the sport of softball?
So I will say, and this also goes back to, I don't have a lot of experience having like all of the technology that, bigger schools have. So I don't get that side of things, but also too, like, when someone can hit a ball hard, like you can see it. Like I'm a big person, like you can tell me all the statistics in the world, but until I see you smash a ball or whatever, like your bat speed doesn't really matter to me, or your bat, or like the exit velo doesn't really matter to me, right? Like if you can hit the ball hard, but it might go to somebody every single time, and that's really like not going to help us. Whereas if you're hitting the ball hard into gaps, way different story, or hitting the ball hard over the fence, way different story. So I don't rely, and it comes back to not really having the experience with all that, which I would assume would be amazing to have. But I'm a big person of like, I need to see it, I need to feel it. Like
Right.
I'm not a numbers person. I have an assistant for that. Like he is the numbers guy. He's the one that is like, hey, she went 1 for 19. We need to take her out. And I'll be like, oh no, she's good. She's good. Like she's going to get it. And he's like, no, she went 1 for 19. It's time. I'm like, okay, yes, sir. And so it's just one of those things, like I am a feel and see person. I'm not a numbers person. And so in our program, we don't necessarily talk about, winning ever. We don't talk about like specific, like we talk about just being better than what we were, and that's it, and coming to practice every single day and getting better. And that's what we have to focus on. That's where we are in our program as well. But maybe one day it'll change, but I think for me it's a lot more process driven, and like what you do on the daily and how you show up for yourself, rather than like we're going to take 100 swings today, or you're going to pitch 100 pitches. Like
Right.
cool,
Yeah.
but that's not how I operate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Having a process that works for you, hey, if it works, then it works, right? So, so then in the sense of, like you said, you might be doing this over that, right? Might not be taking 100 hacks today just because that's not what we need to work on. So then how do you give like constructive feedback or constructive criticism, however you want to take that, after a poor performance or after a bad game, right? Or I guess that is enough for itself.
The cool thing about coaching women is that they very much know when they did something wrong. So after the game, I'm not a person that's going to go up like, we need to do this, 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 and this, and this, and this, and this. Like they probably already know that, right? Like it's kind of like when you make an error, why yell at the person who made the error? They already feel bad. They're not trying to make an error. They don't want to look bad. So like they already know that they did something wrong. So for me, I'll go out to a circle and I'll be like, okay, what didn't we do and what do we need to do differently? and we just talk it out and we say things out loud, even if it doesn't feel very good. Like, you know, hey, you weren't a good teammate in this moment. You know what I mean? And like, I allowed them to have the opportunity to bring it up first. And then if it's not touched on, then I'll touch on it. Well, how about like that leadership moment that we didn't step into? Like, what about this moment where, you know, like we didn't field the ball before we threw the ball? Like, you know what I mean? So I try to do it like that. Sometimes it doesn't come off like that. Sometimes, you know, I'm a very passionate and like upbeat person. So like a lot of times my passion kind of takes over and I'm just like, why are we doing this? Like I'm freaking out when really I just need to like take a step back and be like, okay, what do we need to do better? And we just go back to the drawing board and do that. So we're kind of hippies in our program too. Like we journal like crazy. So like we talk about our feelings. Sometimes it's out loud, sometimes it's in our journal, but either way, it's getting off of our chest. So we're able to like get it off of our bodies and we're able to move forward. Like we're big on that type of thing. And we have a mental performance coach that helps us do that. But like we're big on just like what is holding you back right now. And sometimes it's not softball related. And they're able to get that off their chest, whether that's journaling or if they want to talk to us about it or want to talk to our mental performance coach about it. So yeah, I think that we tackle it a lot of different ways, I suppose.
Yeah. But knowing when and where is always important, and knowing timing of those things is also important. So, you know, tackling that, I like that you have different avenues and different facets to do that. But like you said, you know, knowing when to, because is just as important as what you're gonna say too.
Absolutely.
So when you think about, you know, obviously when you're recruiting girls in, everybody wants to be that starter, whether they're as a freshman, which most freshmen want to come in and be, no one wants to sit out because they're probably that girl where they're from, right? Or at least a part of that, kind of that girl. One of the, you know, everybody was somebody back home. And then they show up there and they may not be able to see the field right away. And some girls don't see it very much until their senior year, if that, right? And that's just how sports go. So where do you start with development when it comes to just maybe in general, right? From an athlete who, hypothetically speaking, you know, and maybe layman's terms, somebody who's a bench player or JV who wants to take that leap into the starting lineup or just get more minutes or I guess not minutes, but get more innings or whatever the case is. Where do you start with that? And how do you get a kid, which I know some of it's mentality, of course, but how do you get a kid to go from JV to that next level? Minus the variables that go into it. We all know they may not develop the right way, or they mentally, or their body doesn't hold the strength and conditioning you want to put on, whatever. But anyways, where do you start and how do you get them to go from, you know, bench to starter or exactly.
Okay. So when we're recruiting, we never talk to anybody about like, hey, you're going to come in and be a starter. Like, we don't say that. And I always tell the girls, like, if anyone's telling you that, like, call bullshit. Oh, sorry, I probably shouldn't say that.
No, you're good. You're good.
Like no coach can tell you you're going to come in and you're going to do this immediately. Now, we might have a good idea, like this girl is probably going to come in and be an impact. We don't really know how. And freshmen, when they come in, are so hit or miss too, because like some girls come in and they have they don't know any better. So all they do is they ball out all the time and they don't have anything telling them that they can't do it. So they just ball out, they're really good. They don't have anything like, and then they have a breakout freshman year and it's great. And then you have a case of, you know, sometimes it's the opposite way. They question everything. Am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? And they don't pan out. And then that ends up like all the girls that are in our program are talented enough to be on the field.
Yeah.
It is then like, do they believe that in themselves enough to get the job done? And they might just have a block of like, whenever they get into a pressure situation, they can't show up for themselves, or like, or, you know, like we have the girls that are the hardest workers in the room and maybe lift the heaviest weight in the weight room, and, or she's just like one of the best human beings on the planet, but like her outcomes aren't getting it done. And so like at the end of the day, we do need to win. We don't talk about winning, but we do need to win ball games. It's kind of what the job is. And so, so we just try to like, we try to recruit the girls early on, and maybe this is a development piece that we do here and that we plan to be better at, is just like, it's more along, like, we're going to get the girls that are talented enough to be here. I'm not really worried about that. It's going to be like, who has the mentality to be successful. So then that's where we develop. Like, we just try to put them into, it sounds very like cliche, but like, they need to feel safe, and they need to feel like they are wanted. And if they're in a good environment, then they're more likely to play better. And so we try to give them that. So in turn, they're able to give us what we need them to give us. So I don't know if that's an answer to your question, but I've just learned that a lot of times we have we have talent, like every girl on the team is talented enough to play. It's just whether or not they're getting it done. And a lot of times it just comes to, they are not confident in themselves enough to do that. And and that's what needs developed more than anything.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the idea, which is like the cliche side of what you mentioned about the feel safe or feel at home, right? I think in today's world, with the transfer portal and with all those things, which we're not going to dive into, but those things are important to, not today anyways, maybe when you come back, when you come back. But it's one of those things where I think not only to build a successful program in today's world, it's probably a little bit harder than it was 10 years ago, in terms of maybe buy-in or keeping kids, because just retention rate's probably kind of hard. You may not feel it as much, and I also feel like it may be more basketball, football oriented transfer portals than baseball, softball. At least I would almost put money on the metrics of that. I bet there's more ratio-wise in those sports than these. But anyways, like you said, development, you have to stick around so you can develop, and a lot of that is trusting your coaches, trusting the process of what they see, and also you have to trust yourself that when you're ready, almost like that next man up mentality, to where maybe you don't get the innings right now, but something happens and you step in and then you ball out, and now you're that girl or whatever, or guy in another sport. So also sometimes it's just preparing for being ready, and so when your opportunity shows up, you can be that impact, where you might not have been. So it is an answer to my question for sure. So I appreciate that part. So talking a little bit, my final few questions for you, because I know we have to get going. I know you guys are probably.
It's okay. Take your time.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. I don't want to rush. I know you have some stuff going on. So there's a few questions I have left. But we'll dive into it again if we're able to get you back on here. I'll have a few for you that will go. But when you think about your future, in terms of like how you get girls to show up and buy in to what you're looking to do, or like to your mantra, to your team's culture, chemistry, whatever you want to call it, how do you build a successful culture or environment on the level of buy-in and mindset?
So, like I said earlier, I got here 2 years ago, and the cool thing and what was like really challenging at the time was when I came into my job, it was mid-year. So I got hired in January, and then I had to compete with the team that I had in February. And I didn't really know anybody and what they got or anything like that. And so that year, while it was very challenging, that season was very challenging, I was able to kind of realize what our program needed in that time. Like, we were a bunch of buttheads, and I don't operate that way. And we, the last coach taught like heavy launch angle, and we don't do that. We teach hit the ball hard. And so, so there were a lot of things that weren't necessarily, it was like the exact opposite page that I was going to be coaching on. And so we had very real conversations at the end of our season, like exit meetings, like, here is how this is going to go. And how we have been operating is not in line with that. So whenever you come back, like, this is what you're going to see. And if you are not going to like it, then you're not going to last here, basically. And, And it was finally like we implemented core values. I'm a huge core value person. We talk about it. We talk about our culture every single day, our core values, what matters to us. We have quote of the days every single day that relate back to our core values. And we go back to like, we have 7 of them. They each go off of the word empower. So like, you know, energy, mentality, poise, like I can go through all of them if you want, but the overarching theme is that we want to empower each other to be stronger human beings than we were the day before or the year before, or in the 4 years that you're here, hopefully 4 years that you're here, you are going to be a more empowered young woman to go out and do amazing things. And so, yes, it's about softball, but it's more about that. So I talk so much about that. It's kind of like, we beat it into their systems. And it was until this year, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm going to say it. Like, this was the first year that I didn't have somebody that I wanted to quit my team. And it was because we finally got the people into our program that we needed. And finally, the people that weren't going to work out weeded themselves out. And it was one of those things, like, this year has been really great. And I'm really excited about this season. Not like, yes, because of all the softball things, but how much we've grown as women, and like since fall has started, and with this group that we have, it's insane. So like when we talk about culture, like that is my go-to. I don't really like saying culture, but like, because it's got to be felt. You're not going to understand. Everyone uses culture, like, but that's something that, like, when you're coming to West Liberty, like, you fit into that. And if you don't, then you're not getting recruited anymore by us. Like, so we'll have girls that are super talented come on a visit, practice with us, do everything they need to do. But it just wasn't a right dynamic. And I'm sorry, but I think that we go a different route now. And then vice versa. We know you are exactly the type of person we want in this program. And sometimes that offer goes out earlier than we intended to, and that's okay.
Yeah. You mentioning like if you should say that or not about the girl that, you know, having girls in the program that you want to potentially, you know, you're, let's just say it'd be a healthier culture when they are not there, right? I don't know if that's necessarily, it feels bad to say. I will say that. I feel like I've been in that position. I feel like most coaches may have been in there. You know, they walk into a program, whether it's high school or middle school or college. I don't think it really matters what level you are. It's like, well, if once these people leave, I think we can see that culture evolve, or whatever, what we're trying to build evolve in the way that we may not be able to currently. So it does sound bad. You know, I talk a lot about it. You know, this is my first year here. So, you know, luckily we have a pretty good class in terms of the girls who are here. You know, they culturally kind of fit what I would be looking for anyways. There's, you know, not really hit or miss, but you know, for the most part, it's a pretty decent little group. But, you know, that's one thing I'm looking forward to for next year, which I say all the time, which sounds bad because like which I'm enjoying this year. It's a great year so far and I'm not upset about it, but it's also one of those things where like once you really can get your full first recruiting class, you have a X amount of time, right? As you felt it, it really develops the way you want it to. And it's different, even though it sounds bad to say. It is also kind of a truth behind the matter too. You know, there is a little bit of truth to it, even though it is kind of crappy to say to some people, but I agree.
And I think too, something that's important, and this is like, I pray about this every day, is that I can be the person that these young women need every single day, and whatever they're feeling at the time, right? But also too, like, I have to be the person that kind of walks that walk if I'm going to talk about that stuff too. And so I think about every action that I do, and like, I know that whether it's indirectly or directly, it's going to affect my team in some way, shape, or form. And so I think about that in every decision that I make, professional and personal. And just because I don't want to be the hypocrite, I don't want to say, be this person, and then I'm completely living a different life, because that's not fair. And so I think it's also important to just make sure that you're also the person that shows up like you're talking about as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. You gotta live by it if you're going to preach it, you know, so that's absolutely fair. So, you know, you've mentioned that your first year there, you know, had some pretty good success. I mean, I think, or maybe it was last year, or both years, maybe. I know you had like a 30+ win season, at least last year, top half of your conference, right? And so, long story short, what I'm getting to is there's been some success early on at West Liberty, right? And so, how do you build that successful program that you have, and how do you keep it going on the level of wins, right? So, how do you build it and sustain it over time when it comes to that side of the program?
I think my plan is just going to be to continue to bring the type of humans that we need into this program, and people who, because I will say, and it makes sense when a new coach comes in, like that coach has to earn trust. Like you can't just walk in and expect that trust is already going to be there. So like what's crazy is that first season that we were here, like we ended up with 21. And somehow I don't even know how, but the night and day difference between the girls from when we first arrived in January to May, like we grew so much. And then it was like, okay, well, it's just time to grow more. And we realized just like it's getting the people here that are gonna go through a brick wall for you and that have that trust with you, and you love them and trust them too, and their families. Like I'm a family person, so we recruit families hard too. And so I'm gonna continue to do that because like I said, we can get the talent here. It's just the type of humans that need to be here is what's important to make sure we continue doing and not get relaxed on that end of things.
Yeah, I think that's important. I guess a quick question for you off of that, because you are a 4-year school. So, there's not only the high school girls you were going, that ability to go after, but you have transfer girls, you
Mhm.
have JUCO girls, right? You have all these different spaces, maybe even
For
international.
sure.
So, like, how do you navigate those things? And do you even go after those girls? And I think it's a fair question only because we're talking about culture and stuff. Just because, that can be one of those things where you bring in a transfer girl who's been a part of another program. JUCO might be a little bit different, but the spaces of transfers or whatever. But,
Right.
You just bringing in one of those girls, which I guess the same thing for high school. One bad person can
Yeah.
ruin that, right? One bad apple. But how do you navigate the spaces knowing that you have JUCO plus transfers plus international plus high school and all those realms? Like, how do you navigate it? And what are you looking for knowing that they'd have another culture on their resume basically come before they come to yours?
Yeah. So, I spent a lot of time on the phone last summer with a ton of, you know, JUCOs or transfers or whatever that is. And, a lot of people want to beat around the bush, and like I don't. I want to know why you're in the transfer portal and like what type of problems did you have? And I think that kind of weeds out what type of problem you would have at our school. And then I tell them straightforward about our culture. And some people I did not get phone calls back from. Like some people like heard me out. We had a really good conversation, but then I didn't hear anything after. And then I just know like, okay, they're not into what we're doing here, and that's okay. Other girls were very on top of it. I have a Texas girl who transferred here. Like a girl from Texas, sorry. And so she did have like not like a wonky experience, but it was definitely like nothing like it is here. And she honestly like didn't know how to receive all of the like love and stuff that we were giving. And so we had to have that whole conversation in the fall. Like, hey, we've got you. Like, you don't have to push back. You don't have like, we've got you. Like, you just need to trust us. And like, so it was kind of like that for a hot second. It was just like she didn't really realize it was real, kind of. And so like it is hard. It's going to be hard, but we right now we don't rely on the transfer portal. Like we are going to recruit our 4 years. We're going to hope that they stay. I'm going to go after the borderline D1, that girls that should be competing D1, because we can get them here. And that's how we're going to compete until otherwise, right? Like it's not a big deal for us quite yet. So I don't need it to be a big deal for us yet. So I will change my process whenever it needs changed. But as of right now, I'm going to continue to fill my 4 years with who I need, and then fill in the gaps with the transfer portal if we can.
Fair. Great way to navigate the space of college athletics now. So my final question for you, at least on the philosophy side, I have one more fun question at the end for you. But my final question is my favorite question, and it's the name of the show. But why do you coach? What's your coach's why?
Okay, so my coach's why goes back to the core values. So whenever I took this job and I was implementing this, I leaned on some of my coaching mentors, and I'm just like, how do I establish like what I want our core values to be? And they're like, what's important to you? It's your program. They're going to have to live this out, but it's your program. So what do you want it to look like? And that's where empower came from. Empower is probably my core value word. And like I said, like, I've been through everything. I did not have the female, I didn't have a very empowering female college coach. Like she had every opportunity to be one and she just wasn't. And so for me, I cannot imagine someone treating my players like that. So I choose to be the exact opposite. I want to empower them to be strong humans and that means like, yes, physically, like, yeah, you're going to work out and you're going to be really strong and you're going to be proud of yourself. But like, I want you to walk into a room and know you belong there. Like, I want you to like come to practice so confident that like, hell yeah, I'm going to hit this ball over the fence, or like, you know what I mean? Just like that. I want it to radiate from them just a little bit more than what it did when they got here. And
Yep.
like, I just want them to be great humans and be prepared for like, cause life's going to hit them. And I know that I'm still what people call young, but like, I've been hit
Yeah,
with,
we are,
I've been
yeah.
hit with stuff that like, I wasn't necessarily prepared to handle. And so now I just want them to be a little bit better equipped than I was. And so that's where our empower comes from. And that's what I will preach like to the end of time. Like, that is my why. I want to empower them to be better and stronger and more confident by the time like my time with them is over.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that why. That's a really good why. Empower is a deep word, and
also I want you to know that one of the reasons I agreed to this is because your podcast was called that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I liked
appreciate
that
that.
you had like what's your why. And so we talk about that often.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. First time, I think, well, maybe not the first time, but I've had a few coaches say that, they liked the name of the show. And, I don't know where it came from, but I mean, I guess I do know where it came from, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't have words for it, but it just worked out.
Deal. Yeah.
Yeah, it just worked out that way. So I appreciate that and everything. And so I have one more final fun question for you to end it, because I know we got to get going here.
Okay.
If you guys are still watching this on YouTube, make sure you guys hit that bell, like, subscribe, all the 9 yards. Y'all know what to do. If you guys are an audio listener, make sure you guys leave a review, hit those stars, say what you got to say, but say it with your chest, because Coach and I want to hear it. Fun final question for you. Might be a hot question, but we're going to let it eat anyways. What state produces the best high school softball?
I mean, I think naturally, like, it's going to be southern states or California. They get to play softball all year round, outside. It's great. So I'm going to say probably like the Texas, Oklahoma, California-ish. Florida has good ball players too.
Right.
Ohio, but like I said, we're in the north. Ohio has a lot of good softball. And so like, I think that that's the reason, like most of our recruiting class will come from Ohio. So I'm going to also add Ohio to that, because there's some legit players in Ohio.
Okay. I like it. I like it. Not a lot of biasness there, which is cool to hear. I know you from where you're from, so I hear that a lot. These outdoor sports, I hear pretty commonly Texas, Cali, Florida, pretty much states that can play 8 to 9 months, if not more, a year.
Yeah.
So I hear that quite often. So I appreciate you diving in on that. But Coach, I appreciate you jumping on here. I know he kind of got in and got out, but I really appreciate you taking the time to touch base before your season, and obviously best of luck there. But I really appreciate it. Love to have you back on here if we have the ability to do that. So I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you back, and I like what you're doing. Like, I like that it's not all about us as coaches, but also just like, I think it's important when young women hear like a coach's perspective as well of like what's going to get you here or what's important to us. And it's not all about softball a lot of times.
Absolutely, yeah. We gotta provoke. I mean, coaching in general, we gotta produce, at least hopefully, it's your mindset, good people. While they're also just good athletes too. So, but absolutely, I appreciate your kind words and not only about the podcast, but hopefully anybody listening to this got something from it. I know I did. I wrote some stuff down that I'll be utilizing. So I appreciate you. But with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for listening. But we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.